Well, in South Asia, you have two nuclear weapon states which are not only geographically contiguous, but have a long history of festering disputes, particularly the UN recognized Jammu and Kashmir dispute, where the human rights and security situation is very grave, and you're aware of that. The conventional symmetry, continuous expansion and modernization of Indian conventional and nuclear arsenal being bolstered by exceptions and agreements arranged by a group of countries, either for geopolitical or economic reasons, are further undermining the security landscape in South Asia. The nuclearization of the Indian Ocean, increase in the diversity, numbers, ranges, and readiness of nuclear weapons delivery systems, test of hypersonic delivery vehicle, acquisition of anti-ballistic missile systems and long endurance unmanned aerial vehicles and development of second strike capability are giving India a false sense of security and making it even more reckless under the ultra nationalist and extremist right wing BJP government. Indian force postures and security doctrines have an offensive rather than defensive intent. This is evident from frequent aggressive and provocative Indian statements and threats of a limited war with Pakistan, preemptive counter-force strikes to take out Pakistan's nuclear weapons, or land warfare doctrine of 2018. The events of February 2019 were a dangerous reminder that this irresponsible Indian behavior would jeopardize the peace in South Asia. Had Pakistan not exercised restraint, situation could have spiraled out of control. Ironically, most, if not all, of the violent incidents India blamed on Pakistan, holding out threat of retaliation, turned out to be false flag operations to coincide with Indian elections or important events and visits. Indian propensity to rely on disinformation for its strategic objectives was exposed recently by EU disinformation lab disclosures. On the other hand, Indian sponsorship of terrorism in Pakistan has a long history and continues relentlessly. Indian leaders openly brag about it. The fact that against this backdrop, the two countries have had no dialogue and no communication for a long time makes South Asia a high risk region. Yes, Pakistan has always been willing to resume a comprehensive, sustainable, and result oriented dialogue with India, both to build confidence and to work towards resolution of disputes. You would recall that when Prime Minister Imran Khan's government took over, he again made overtures to India and called for dialogue. But so far, we have not had any positive response from India. Any effort aimed at risk reduction and stability has to have a broader objective of, rather than just management or avoidance of crisis. Pakistan therefore proposed a strategic restraint regime centered around three interlocking and mutually reinforcing elements of conflict resolution, nuclear and missile restraint, and conventional balance. The proposal is still on the table. We have not had any response from India. Pakistan also proposed measures to strengthen international norms, such as the non testing of nuclear weapons through legally binding regional agreement. This can contribute to confidence building and risk reduction. Now, we wait for Indian response. Yes, the predicament South Asia finds itself in is not without generous help from outside the region, particularly the United States. Unfortunately, the US has not been part of the solution and has chosen not to be an honest broker. The US needs to realize that playing proxy games in a nuclearized region is a risk no one can afford, including the US. So instead of fueling India's vertical proliferation and using it as a pawn in its rivalry with China, the US interest would be better served to encourage India to resolve its disputes with Pakistan and China and become part of the Chinese economic and connectivity revolution that will benefit all. Russia, as a global power in the neighborhood of South Asia, Russia has far more at stake in the region. It may consider if arms sales outweigh the cost of an unstable South Asia. India must take home some lessons from the February 2019 events and the recent showdown with China, and hence give up the false notion of two-front war and instead invest in the strategic stability in the region by resolving the disputes it has with its neighbors. China should continue to pursue its policy of economic cooperation and connectivity in the region and beyond. This week, China has announced that it has pulled out 1 million more Chinese from the extreme poverty. This is where we all need to focus on as a region.